of lightning. We thought it was some mystical, mysterious weapon of the heavens. We don't look at it that way anymore because we understand scientifically what lightning is. And so now we manage lightning, and lightning isn't something that we see as an attack from the heavens. And so I guess it's because of our understanding of it. We've removed the feelings from lightning. Now we understand it, and we're better able to deal with it. It's the same way with trials. So that's the first thing that happens, is you're going to cry, you're going to get upset. And so what James is saying is the first thing you need to do is stop feeling for a moment and begin to consider it all joy. I don't know if that's possible. But the next thing that's going to happen, if you begin to consider it, and I believe that's possible for you, if you stop feeling and you begin to consider, the very next thing that's going to happen is you're going to start asking questions. Okay? If you start to say, okay, fine, I'll think about it. I'll try to consider it all joy. The next reasonable thing for you to do in a time of trial is to start asking questions. Why? Okay, why then? If you want me to consider it all joy, why then do I have this trial? Look at the second part of verse 2. It says, consider it all joy, my brethren. I just want to focus on that for just a moment. This idea of my brethren. You know, in trials, complaining is always natural. If you don't believe me, turn with you to Psalm 55. I like to do this from time to time because if you were in Bible study over at the house, I guess it was a year ago now, we tried to go through a lot of the Psalms. And, you know, I always find it remarkable just how much of a whiner David is. I can say that because he's not here. If David were here, I would not call him a whiner. Oh, poor guy. And I also know, being an avid Christian, that he's not in heaven looking down on me. I'm not worried about him at all. He's in the ground. He can be a bit of a whiner. Look at chapter 55, verses 1 to 6. He says, give ear to my prayer, O God, and do not hide yourself from my supplication. Give heed, saying, don't run away from me. Give heed to me and answer me. I'm restless in my complaint, and I'm surely distracted. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the pressure of the wicked, for they bring down trouble upon me, and in anger they bear a grudge against me. My heart is in anguish within me, and the terrors of death have fallen on me. Fear and trembling come upon me, and horror has overwhelmed me. And I said, oh, that I had wings like a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. Behold, I would wander far away. I would lodge in the wilderness. You kind of get the idea here, and he does this often, where he says, God, are you listening to me? My life is in trial. And David had lots of trials. Some of them he brought upon himself. Most of them he didn't. They were just because he was picked to be king, and the king was a contentious position. He said, aren't you listening to me? I'm dying down here. And nobody's paying attention to me. My enemies are getting stronger every day. I'm getting weaker. This whole thing's going sideways and falling apart. Isn't anybody paying attention? God, are you listening? And that's fine, God never gets upset with David for being like that. And I think that's natural. So if it becomes the consideration thing and you're going to try to figure it out, the next thing that's going to happen naturally for you is you're going to start asking God why. And I don't have a problem with you asking why. You can ask God about anything. It's the manner in which you ask it. That's the point. There's a way that you can ask why to get the answer, and there's a way that you can ask why to implicitly judge God. Okay? There's a way to ask why in such a manner that God's going to be upset with you about asking. But if you're asking really wanting to know, I do believe He'll ask you. I do believe He'll answer you. And I think that's what it's talking about here when he says, my brethren. I want you to understand here, James could never write this passage to a non-believer. And I would never preach this passage to a non-believer either. He's only talking to the brethren. Because we, as the people of God, we have a right then to expect that our trials are going to be for our good. I don't think you can say that to a non-believer. Otherwise, if you say that to a non-believer, it just is Zen Buddhism, New Age, God will be good, okay? But to a believer, there's real truth in that. And do understand that just as a mother knows, I've said this before, it's amazing to me how mothers know what their babies need based on the manner in which they cry. I don't know if I always believe that. But they can tell if a baby's fussy or hungry or sick by the way it's crying. I think in the same way, when you cry out to the Lord, He knows your heart. And he knows if you're being fussy. He knows if you're just hungry and need some encouragement from him. He also knows if you're sick and you need some discipline. You need some medicine, some help. And I do believe that it's okay to ask God why, but you have to ask wanting to know the answer. And so if what comes after the crying is thinking about it, what comes after the questioning is listening, it's foolish for you to cry out to God and then never listen for the response, right? But some of you just feel better yelling at God, and I understand that. I've done it myself, and it does feel better for a little bit. But if you're going to go ahead and yell at God and cry out to Him, you must then listen. You've got to give Him a chance to answer. Right? Okay. Next thing, then, he says, "My brethren," what comes after the listening? Well, probably what comes after the listening is running away. Because typically what he tells you to do, or he tells you what's going on, is probably not something you're really excited about. Look at the latter part of verse 2. It says, "Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials." In trials, our typical reaction is to run for our lives, okay? Is to flee and to get in out of the rain. When I'm down there at camp, I'm not looking to get out of the rain, I'm looking to get in out of the sun. And it's kind of comical, but when I'm at camp, you should see me. I know where every bit of shade is on that campground, and I try to find it. If I'm playing Frisbee with some kid, I'm like, "Hey, why don't you go stand over there? And I'm going to go stand under this tree. And you better be a good thrower, because you're not making me run out in the sun to get your errant Frisbee tosses." And every time we play softball, I kind of play right shade. Because left field, center field, and right field are out in the sun. So, John, where are you going to play? Well, I'm going to play right over under that tree over there. But the problem in life is there is no shady spot where you're free from trials. He doesn't say if you get into a trial, does he, in verse 2? He says when. There is no way to come in out of the rain. There is no way to hide from the glaring, beating sun of trials. It's going to come on everybody. And if that's the case, the problem with running from trials, if they're always going to be coming, is if you're running from a trial, where's your back? Your back is to the problem. And you don't want to have your back to whatever's coming to attack you, because you're going to get beat. Okay? You can't outrun a trial. And if your back is to your enemy, you're defenseless. If you're running away from something that's stronger and greater than you, what do you need to do? You need to turn around and dig in and get ready to fight. Okay? If I can't outrun what's chasing me, my only other option then is to turn around, because I'm going to have a better chance when I'm facing it than if I'm running away, right? And so what James tends to be saying here is he's saying, listen, you're going to have trials. If you run, you're going to get beat and run over. Why don't you turn around, dig in, get some defenses, and when it comes, you're ready to face it and you can beat it. Okay? Because God does not mean this trial to destroy you. He does not mean this trial to defeat you and ruin you. He means this trial to make you stronger